The following session you're about to see is with a client by the name of Sheri. Now, Sheri initially comes because she has some self-esteem issues, some concerns about her weight. She has cravings for junk food on a regular basis, and she also is lactose intolerant, and she also has Crohn's disease. And prior to actually conducting the interview, we discovered, as we dug a little deeper and did some detective work, that a lot of this physical health problems that she has probably stems from the fact that she was sexually abused at the age of 6 or 7. And the focus of the EFT session is just on remembering that first time that it happened. The abuse happened a number of times, almost daily, for about 3 months when she was in a foster home. So Sheri is very brave in sharing her story, and you'll notice that I gently go back to the event and the day that it happened, using more of the Tearless Trauma Technique. So I asked Sheri to remember it, but I never at any time asked her to describe or explain to me out loud what happened. I asked her just to do it in her mind, and that's enough to bring her to a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. You can see just the fact that she's crying. There's no reason to do necessarily a setup statement, and there's no reason to even have her speak. So I'll just have her tap as she's experiencing that emotion on obviously a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. So the most important parts that you'll get out of watching this session with Sheri is the Tearless Trauma Technique, never actually asking the client to explain or never having them go into the issue any further than they're comfortable with, more particularly because it was so traumatic. And at the same time, I don't necessarily ask Sheri to speak. I just tap the points with her, along with her, and I will say what I would normally say. I don't ask her to repeat that back to me unless she's comfortable with that. And the third component is skipping the setup statement for the majority of the time. So I hope you learn a lot from watching the session with Sheri. Hi, Sheri.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for coming in today. You've brought with you to the EFT session lots of exciting things that we could tap on, and through discussion we discovered that there might be a root of the problem. So just for purposes of explanation, you're experiencing something called Crohn's disease, a lot of food cravings, like fried foods and sweets a lot, dairy, ice cream. And you're also experiencing some other fears, like fear of being alone. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about where you think that all comes from, or something that's happened. Because we could tap on Crohn's, and we could tap on the food cravings, kind of that's the surface stuff, right? But there's another issue of a childhood sexual abuse that you're hoping maybe we could tap on today.
That's right. Happened when I was about 6 or 7 years old when my parents were separated.
How nervous do you feel even going back there?
I'm very warm right now.
So you feel it in your physical body, like you just feel warm.
Yeah.
Tension. Even though I have all this tension.
Even though I have all this tension.
I'm not sure if I want to go back to that memory.
I'm not sure if I want to go back to that memory.
I love and accept myself anyway.
I love and accept myself anyway.
Fully and completely.
Fully and completely.
Inner part of the eyebrow. All this tension.
All this tension.
Don't want to go there.
Don't want to go there.
Not sure if I want to go back to that memory.
Not sure if I want to go back to that memory.
Not sure if I want to go back to that memory.
Not sure if I want to go back to that memory.
All this tension.
All this tension.
I have tension just when I think about it.
I have tension just when I think about it.
I have tension just thinking about
I
it.
have tension just thinking about it.
But I love and accept myself anyway.
I love and accept myself anyway.
Okay. Deep full breath. So as opposed to having you actually talk about it, what we'll do instead is just have you go through it in your mind, right? So we don't actually have to go through the whole story. That's the beauty of EFT, is that I don't even have to know what happened. You don't even have to tell me or anybody else. So what comes up for you? What's the... Just tap right here. This emotion.
This emotion?
This emotion. You don't even have to say anything. Just tap. Yeah. This emotion. This emotion. Is it sadness? All this sadness. Side of the finger. Middle finger. Pinky finger. All this sadness. I've been holding it all in. So maybe it's time to let it go. Maybe it's time to let it go. You can take a break if you need a Kleenex.
Didn't take long.
Didn't take long at all. Can you give me a number of the emotion right now? Is it still a 10?
I think it's a different emotion.
Yeah, it's going to shift pretty fast for you,
I think.
What's the emotion?
The first one was fear.
Fear that you felt that day?
It was more than one day, but just fear in general, because I hated being there.
Just say, I hated being there.
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 I hated it.
Hated it.
You can say it like you mean it. I hated being there. I hated being there.
Hated being there.
I hated being there.
Hated being there.
Why did you hate it?
Why did I hate it? Because I knew what was coming.
I knew it was coming. I hated being there.
I hated being
I
there.
knew it was coming.
Because I knew it was coming.
Okay, tap the back of your hand. Close your eyes. Open. Down hard right. Down hard left. Make a circle you can find with the eyes. Other direction. Gorgeous. We'll do happy birthday together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do floor to ceiling. I hated being there.
I hated being there.
I knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming.
I hated being
I
there.
hated being there.
I knew it was
I
coming.
knew it was coming.
I hated being there.
I hated being there.
I always knew it was coming.
I always knew it was coming.
I hated being there.
I hated being there.
I always knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming.
I hated being there.
I hated being there.
Hated it.
Hated it.
I hated being there.
Hated it.
Was it a foster home that you were in?
Yes.
Hated that foster home.
Hated that foster
I
home.
hated that foster home.
Hated that foster home.
Good. Deep breath in. Can you say I hated that foster home?
I hated that foster home.
I knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming.
Can you give me a number or an emotion that you might feel when you
Sadness.
sadness? Can you give me a number for that?
I'm probably going
8. Even though I have all this sadness,
to even though I have all this sadness.
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself.
fully and completely.
Fully and completely.
Even though I have all this sadness,
Even though I have all this
I
sadness.
give myself permission to let it go.
I give myself permission to let it go.
Even though I have all this sadness,
Even though I have all this sadness.
I can love and accept myself
I can love and accept myself.
fully and completely,
Fully and completely.
regardless of what happened
Regardless of what happened.
when I was in that foster home.
When I was in that foster home.
All this sadness,
All this sadness.
all this sadness,
All this sadness.
that foster home,
That foster home.
all this sadness,
All this sadness.
what happened in that foster home,
What happened in that foster home.
all this sadness,
All this sadness.
what happened in that foster
What
home,
happened in that foster home.
all this sadness.
All this sadness.
Just do the gamut point, and we'll just do floor to ceiling here.
Mhm.
All this sadness,
All this sadness.
that foster home,
That foster home.
all this sadness,
All this sadness.
that foster home.
That foster home.
And just your top of the head, all this sadness.
All this sadness.
And then scale the sadness for me. It's probably not going to be, there's probably a lot under there,
Mm-hmm.
and there's probably one memory specific that's,
Well, the one that just keeps coming up is that I lost who I was.
is that what you're sad about?
Because I think the majority of my memories I went black because I knew what was coming, so I would just hide someplace within myself and not pay attention. to
Yeah,
was
and that's
going
what happens when it's so traumatic
on.
for someone in an event like sexual abuse. If it's so traumatic, we just shut out completely. We check the subconscious mind. The conscious mind just checks out because it's safer to do that. But you do have some memories, obviously, of what happened, but it's still sadness.
It's sadness for me
What's-
because I shut down after the experience. I wasn't the same girl. Even my parents knew that, but they didn't know why.
Because they didn't know what happened. Can you give me a number for that sadness?
Probably a 9.
All this sadness.
All this sadness.
I lost who I was.
I lost who I was.
Had to check out when it happened.
Had to check out when it happened.
I lost who I was.
I lost who I was.
All this sadness.
All this sadness.
I lost who I was.
I lost who I was.
All this sadness.
All this sadness.
I lost who I was.
I lost who I was.
All this sadness.
All this sadness.
Close. Open. Down hard right. Down hard left. Big circle. Other way. Good. Floor to ceiling, all this sadness.
All this sadness.
I lost who I was.
I lost who I was.
They took it away from me.
They took it away from me.
I had to check out that day.
I had to check out.
Every time it happened.
Every time it happened.
I had to check out.
I had to check out.
I would just black out.
I would just black out.
And I lost myself.
I lost myself.
I had to black out.
I had to black out.
When it was happening.
When it was happening.
And I lost myself.
I lost myself.
All this sadness.
All this sadness.
I lost myself.
I lost myself.
Because of what happened.
Because of what happened.
Okay, deep full breath in. Just say I lost myself because of what happened.
I lost myself because of what happened.
Can you give me a number of sadness? Or your next thought?
The sadness probably down to 3 or 4, but then I felt pity for them.
Oh. Let's do remaining sadness for you. This remaining sadness for me.
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 I lost myself.
I lost myself.
Because of what happened.
Because of what happened.
Remaining sadness for me.
Remaining sadness for me.
Remaining sadness for me.
Remaining sadness for me.
Floor to ceiling eye roll. This remaining sadness
This remaining sadness
that I feel for me.
that I feel for me.
That little girl, Sheri.
That little girl, Sheri.
She lost herself.
She lost herself.
It's remaining sadness.
This remaining sadness.
Remaining sadness.
Remaining sadness.
Remaining sadness for me.
Remaining sadness for
That
me.
little girl, Sheri.
That little girl, Sheri.
Who lost herself.
Who lost herself.
Because of what happened.
Because of what happened.
It's remaining sadness.
This remaining sadness.
I can begin to let it go.
I can begin to let it go.
Allowing myself to be free.
Allowing myself to be free.
Okay. And check in with sadness.
No.
Why were you sad?
Um,
You said you lost
because I was
yourself.
by myself. I was alone. I didn't have my family to protect me.
How do you feel about that?
It made me angry that they sent us away. But I also have memories of what happened when they were together. So.
It's like there's nothing I could do.
Right.
Yeah. It was pity for them.
Because they will always have the memory of hurting someone.
Oh. How do you feel about that? You pity for them? Because they will always have to remember that they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting? Have you ever thought that before?
No.
Oh. You've never actually thought that?
No. Like I was angry at them for a long time, but then with my own development, I'm like, okay, well they have to live with their choices too.
Uh-huh.
So whether or not they even recognize it or if they've hurt other people, I can't help that.
No, we can't help that or change that. Maybe you can go back to, I know you've mentioned before, go back to, just in your mind, you don't have to talk about it, but go back to maybe playing a scene, the most significant memory that you have of what happened, just in your mind, and what you felt at the time, when you knew it was coming. Or maybe the first time. Is there one that's the most significant?
The majority of the time was in the garage because the parents wouldn't find out. So I was always standing in front of the door that led into the garage, but it was always locked, so they were always around me. It was never just one. It was 3 of them.
3 of them. What's the emotion when you go back to that memory, standing in front of the garage door?
Anxiety.
Okay. This is anxiety. Can you give me a number?
Number 8.
This anxiety.
This anxiety.
I hate standing in front of that garage door.
I hate standing in front of that garage
I
door.
know what they're going to do.
I know what they're going to do.
This anxiety.
This anxiety.
Hate that garage door.
Hate that garage door.
Do you hate it?
Yes. I hate that garage door.
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 All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
In front of the garage door.
In front of the garage door.
All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
In front of the garage door.
In front of the garage door.
And then just stay with that image. That part of the memory. You're standing in front of the garage door and they're surrounding you. Is it anxiety? If it is, what's the number? Or is it shifted?
Shifted to fear.
This fear?
This fear.
Fear of what's coming.
Fear of what's coming.
Fear of what's coming.
Fear of what's coming.
Is there a I can't get out kind of feeling? Or a I can't get out?
I can't get out.
This fear.
This fear.
There's 3 of them.
There's 3 of them.
And there's 1 of me.
And there's 1 of me.
Side of the thumb. There's 3 of them.
There's 3 of them.
And there's 1 of me.
And there's 1 of me.
This fear.
This fear.
I can't get out.
I can't get out.
This fear.
This fear.
I can't get out.
I can't get out.
This fear.
This fear.
I can't get out.
I can't get out.
This fear.
This fear.
There's 3 of them.
There's 3 of them.
1 of me.
1 of me.
I can't get out.
I can't get out.
Good. This fear.
This fear.
This fear.
This fear.
Is it more like terror? Like, can you actually go into
Yeah.
the feeling? This terror.
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 I can't get out.
I can't get out.
This terror.
This terror.
Can't get out.
I can't get out.
Deep full breath in. And stay with it. The image, that same scene. And scale terror. Fear. I can't get out.
6.
This what is it specifically? Terror or fear?
It's a combination of both.
This remaining terror.
This remaining terror.
This remaining terror.
This remaining terror.
Just try to feel it as much as you can as if it was happening now. I know that's not easy, but that's how we clear it. This remaining terror. This remaining terror. This remaining terror. They're not going to let me out. This remaining terror. They're not going to let me out. This remaining terror. They're not going to let me out. This remaining terror. This remaining terror. Remember to breathe. This remaining terror. This remaining terror. This remaining terror. They're not going to let me out. This remaining terror. This remaining terror. This terror I felt. It's not going to let me out. This remaining terror that I felt that day. But maybe I can see that it's not happening anymore. Give my body a chance to relax and feel safe. Deep full breath in. Out. Is it something else? Just let it be there. I'm gonna tap a little more. All these emotions. Couldn't get out. All these emotions. No one here to help me. Can't get out. No one here to help me. Can't get out. No one here to help me. No one here. Close. Open. Down hard right and left. Big circle if you can. Gorgeous other way. Good. Keep tapping the back of the hand. All these emotions. Can't get out. They're not going to let me. Nothing I can do. This remaining feeling. This terror. Can't get out. They're not going to let me. Nothing I can do. This remaining terror. I can begin to let it go. One breath at a time. Good. Please. You can take a break. Comes in layers, right?
It's very deep.
When was the last time you, I guess you said before that you're doing a lot of work emotionally to help resolve it, but you've never done EFT with it. Just go back to the scene and the image. We'll stay there until everything's a zero about it.
That explains why I didn't like a garage when I had a house with a garage. I'm like, I ain't going in there.
I am not going in that garage. Is that the feeling?
For a long time. Because I had a townhouse where I had a garage and I hardly ever spent any time in there. And it's ironic, and I'm looking back like, I wonder why now.
You never really made the connection, right?
Yeah. Because I don't think about it. I just let it go. Right. So
there's a fine line between, trying to see the other person's point of view and coming to a place of forgiveness, which is what we would normally eventually get to in traditional talk therapy. However, EFT allows us to bring all of our emotions, recognize them, allow them, let them be there. And then we use EFT to kind of rewire the energy system so that we can naturally, genuinely see. Eventually, usually that's the place that we come to. And we don't ever force anybody to get there either. We're just going to say, maybe I can be free of these emotions. But we have to first recognize and acknowledge that they're still there and process them, not only by doing that gamut point, right, which moves it from amygdala to frontal lobe, but because the amygdala can get stuck. It's like a very primitive part of your brain, and it gets very stuck in places like fear and terror. It'll just keep operating from that place because that subconscious part of your mind doesn't understand the difference between past, present, and future. It only operates from now. So it doesn't understand that that's not happening to you anymore. So that's why I will add gamut point for this purpose, for something that was so traumatic. Right? And then the tapping on the energy system allows us to rewire our energy system so we're not operating from that place anymore. So we don't attract those things anymore, so that we don't have to feel that way anymore.
Well, I notice in a lot of my relationships, as soon as I know that there's a confrontation, where I feel like I can't control the confrontation, I feel that same anxiety.
That same anxiety. I don't have a control. I don't have control. Is there other control? Because what normally happens for a lot of women is, or anyone who's been sexually abused, is control issues. Yeah, because we didn't have control in that moment, so
we overcompensate.
And that affects every other relationship and everything else in our life.
Exactly.
And that contributes to stress, and stress contributes to things like Crohn's. And we can't, like we said, we can't tap on Crohn's, but I'm more concerned about this issue. So go back to the scene in the garage. You're not even in the garage yet. We're still outside the garage, right? Is that right?
No, we were in it.
Oh, we were in it. Okay.
Okay. But I'm calm.
What's your next thought? Just say, there's 3 of them and 1 of me, and I couldn't get out.
There's 3 of them and 1 of me, and I couldn't get out.
It's a 0.
Pretty much.
Oh, I'm on a 0. What's left? There's no one there to help me.
Yeah, there's no one there to help me. That's part of my being alone issue.
Yeah, because you say you have a fear of being alone? Like alone in your house, or
just
alone not in a relationship?
In a relationship.
Did you feel like people abandoned you, or my parents should have been there? Or?
Yeah, I felt abandoned. I felt a lot of my relationships have abandoned me.
In the garage, what was the feeling? If you go back to that memory.
I was very, very alone.
It's very, very alone feeling.
Very, very alone feeling.
So alone.
So alone.
No one to help me.
No one to help me.
So alone.
So alone.
Alone in this garage.
Alone in this garage.
With no one to help me.
No one to help me.
There's 3 of them.
There's 3 of them.
And 1 of me.
And 1 of me.
And no one's on my side.
No one's on my side.
No one's here to help me.
No one's here to help me.
It's a alone feeling.
It's a alone feeling.
So alone.
So alone.
It's a alone feeling.
It's a alone feeling.
It's a alone feeling.
It's a alone feeling.
So alone.
So alone.
Why isn't anyone helping me?
Why isn't anyone helping me?
Why is there no one here to help me?
Why is there no one here to help me?
So alone.
So alone.
No one here to help me.
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 There's no one here.
There's no one here.
No one here to help me.
No one here to help me.
So alone.
So alone.
Feeling so alone.
Feeling so alone.
Feeling so alone.
Feeling so alone.
Is this one incident that you're trying to remember in the garage?
No. As far as I can remember, it happened for about 3.5 months before they pulled me out of it and moved me to a different location.
How many times in 3.5 months?
Almost daily.
So it's not all a 0 yet. What's the almost daily?
Almost daily.
It happened almost daily.
Almost daily.
No one helped me.
No one helped me.
For 3 months.
For 3 months.
It happened almost every day.
Happened almost every day.
Hated that garage.
Hated that garage.
Happened almost every day.
Happened almost every day.
For 3 months.
For 3 months.
No one was there to help me.
No one was there to help me.
For 3 months.
For 3 months.
Almost every day.
Almost every day.
No one was there to help me.
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 But I love and accept myself anyway.
But I love and accept myself anyway.
Is saying that okay for you? That you love and accept yourself? Because I know you've done some other work, right?
But it's hard.
Yeah. Why can't you love and accept yourself? Or why is that hard?
I think it's because we always think that we had done something that provoked it.
Did you do something to provoke it?
I don't think so. I was 6, 7 years old. How could I have provoked it?
But did you feel like when you just, even when you think
I felt
about
guilty for a long time, thinking I had done something, but I didn't know.
No, not at 6 or 7.
No.
But is there still any guilty feeling there that we could? Even though little Sheri felt guilty.
Even though little Sheri felt guilty.
She can love and accept herself.
She can love and accept herself.
She can forgive herself.
She can forgive herself.
She didn't do anything wrong.
She didn't do anything wrong.
Even though little Sheri felt really guilty. She can love and accept herself. Yeah. You don't even have to say anything. All this guilt that little Sheri felt. All this guilt that little Sheri felt. Like she had done something wrong. Side of the thumb, like she had done something to provoke it. When in fact she had done nothing wrong. All these guilty feelings that little Sheri had. All these guilty feelings that little Sheri had. She can begin to let them go. All these guilty feelings that little Sheri had. She can begin to let them go. Good. All these guilty feelings, you do both sides if you like, that little Sheri had. She can begin to let them go. She can begin to let them go. All these guilty feelings that little Sheri had, like she had done something wrong. She can begin to let those guilty feelings go. Because she did nothing wrong. She was just being a 6 or 7-year-old girl. Take a break. So many layers to it. And we could say, oh, I don't feel guilty anymore. But sometimes it's right beneath that surface, right? It's still there. Yeah. Check in with guilty feeling. And it wasn't necessarily you, because we have to go back to little Sheri, because even that one little word's more of a trigger, right? Little Sheri felt guilty. You're like, well, I don't feel guilty now, because I don't know how old you are, but we're in our 20s, and I realized that there's nothing to feel guilty about. I was 6 or 7. We can consciously understand that, but the subconscious Sheri, the subconscious mind of little girl Sheri, actually felt that, and it's really important just to acknowledge that she felt that, so that we can tap on that. Just say little Sheri felt really guilty.
Little Sheri felt really guilty.
Like she had done something wrong.
Like she had done something wrong.
It was obviously a 10. I don't have to scale it if we're crying, because it's a 10. But what's left? Does she still feel a little guilty? This remaining guilty feeling. Like she had provoked it or done something wrong. Little Sheri felt all that guilt. And there's still some of it left. Like she had done something wrong. For 3.5 months that provoked those boys. Like she had done something wrong. Like she had done something to deserve it. Is that right? Like what did she have done wrong to deserve it? Like she had done something wrong. This remaining guilty feeling that little Sheri felt. This remaining guilty feeling that little Sheri felt. Like she had done something wrong to provoke what happened. This remaining guilty feeling that little Sheri felt. Remaining guilty feeling that little Sheri felt. Remaining guilty feelings that little Sheri had. Like she had done something wrong. Like she had somehow provoked it. For 3.5 months. The little Sheri can let go of those remaining guilty feelings and allow herself to be free. She didn't do anything wrong. She was just being a 7-year-old girl. Oh, I know it's a lot of work. And you might be. Was there one particular time, if it was daily for 3.5 months, it is important if we can to go back to one particular time, maybe the first time, or...
I think in my memories, it is the first time that I remember, because every other time I blocked out.
You just blocked out out.
Because I already knew what was coming, so I just went running, so...
So when we were going back to the image in the garage, the memory in the garage, was that the first time?
I think so, because I have memory of being in one of the boys' room and stuff like that, but they're not the most powerful ones.
Right. The strongest one is the garage, the first time.
But I remember them following me home from school. They would never walk with me, but they would follow me home.
How does that feel?
That's probably where some of the anxiety comes from.
This anxiety. They're following little Sheri home. This anxiety. They're following little Sheri home. It's almost like terror, or I know what's coming. This anxious feeling, they're following me home. They're following me home. This feeling. They're following her home. What's the emotion? It's so subtle.
It's, I've felt it before, even with my kids.
Is it dread?
Yeah.
What did you feel with your kids?
Well, my son was 16 when he left home. My daughter is 16 when she left home. And my youngest is 14 and she wanted to go live with her dad so that she can forgive him. So all these things happened since February. So there's a lot of things that have been going on. Yeah. That's brought up a lot of emotion.
But if you go back to the image of the memory, they're following me home. What's the emotion? If you could name it. Is it dread, or is it something else? It might go away because we're tapping as we're talking.
Yeah. It's not dread. It's I want to say, for me, it's peace, but for the little girl, I think it's frustration.
Yes, that's good. Just go into what she would have felt. It's frustration. That's frustration. Why is she frustrated?
Because she can't change it.
She can't change it. It's almost powerless. It's frustration. Little Sheri's powerless. Can't change it. This frustration. They're following little Sheri home. And there's nothing she can do. All this frustration that little Sheri felt. They're following her home. There's nothing she can do. Back of the hand. They're following little Sheri home. There's nothing she can do. This powerless feeling. They're following little Sheri home. And there's nothing she can do. But now, little Sheri is safe. It's okay if you're in an emotional state where you can repeat the words, then go ahead and repeat them with me. But if you're not in a state where you want to do that, then that's okay.
As you've seen.
Yeah, because sometimes it's because you're obviously tuned into it. The reason we stay with the reminder phrase and we repeat the reminder phrase is to keep you focused on the emotion connected to the image, to the memory. But if you're really tuned into it and you're crying, you're obviously tuned into it. So we just don't want the mind to wander off at all in the process. But as long as you can stay with. So imagine little Sheri walking home and they're following her. How much frustration does she feel?
It's moved to anxiety.
It's okay. It shifts a lot. Is frustration a 0 though?
Yeah, I think so. It's just panic and anxiety.
Okay. All this panic and anxiety that little Sheri felt. It's panic and anxiety. Is it harder for you to actually say it? If you're ready, you can say it because it'll be that much more effective. And this is a really good point for panic and anxiety. Yeah.
It's panic and anxiety.
Little Sheri felt.
What little Sheri felt.
Walking home for 3 months.
Walking home every day.
Every day. This panic.
This panic.
Little Sheri felt.
Little Sheri felt.
This panic.
This panic.
That little Sheri felt.
Little Sheri felt.
This panic.
This panic.
That little Sheri felt.
Little Sheri felt.
This panic.
This panic.
The little Sheri felt.
That little Sheri felt.
Maybe little Sheri can let that panic go. She's not feeling it anymore. Because she's grown up now. This panic that little Sheri felt walking home. Good release. How long was the walk from school to home?
I think about 15-20 minutes.
It's a long time to feel panic.
Yeah, a little bit.
You go back to the memory.
Mm-hmm.
Is there ever anger at them?
Not until you said it. But it's not a lot of anger.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, go back to, I have to stay on task. Go back from walking home and scale little Sheri's panic if you can. Eventually the image will be different. Mm-hmm. The memory stays the same, but the emotional charge connected to it is different. Mm-hmm. You might feel compassion for little Sheri instead of the frustration that she normally would have felt at mm-hmm. that time.
Calmness.
It's just okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a 0 when you think
mm-hmm.
of her panic
mm-hmm.
walking home. And what would happen after she got in the house?
She'd try to hide.
Huh. What does it feel?
That didn't work.
What does it feel like to say that? Little Sheri had to hide.
That's probably what triggers the anger feeling. The trying to hide from them, but knowing that they'll find her anyway.
Is it anger?
Yeah, it's anger. Just she can't stop it, right?
It's anger.
It's anger.
She can't stop it.
She can't stop it.
This anger.
It's anger.
They're gonna find her anyway.
They're gonna find her anyway.
Nothing she can do.
Nothing she can do.
This anger.
This anger.
Little Sheri's trying to hide.
Little Sheri's trying to hide.
Nothing she can do.
Nothing she can
We're
do.
gonna add in a different point. It's right here under the ribcage. This anger.
This anger.
Little Sheri felt.
Little Sheri felt.
She's trying to hide, but she can't.
She's trying to hide, but she can't.
Because they're gonna find her anyway.
They're gonna find her anyway.
What kind of name would you call them? Just think of a name that you would call them if you could, like to feel the anger, to really feel it. Can you think of one? You can just hold it in your head.
It's not gonna be repeated.
Okay, that's okay. This anger at them.
This anger at them.
This anger at them.
This anger at them.
They're gonna find her.
They're gonna find her.
Nothing she can do.
Nothing she can do.
This anger at them.
This anger at them.
This anger at them.
This anger at them.
Do they have names?
I can't remember.
This anger at them.
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 This anger.
This anger.
This anger at them.
This anger at them.
Little Sheri's trying to hide.
Sheri's trying to hide.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
They're gonna find her anyway.
They're gonna find her anyway.
This anger.
This anger.
This anger.
This anger.
This anger.
This anger.
You don't have to say it out loud, but if you could, it'd be helpful, or just say in your mind. If you could say anything to them, like "leave me alone," or
mm-hmm.
you obviously thought those things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to assume.
Mm-hmm. That pick on your own size comes to mind.
Oh. Okay. How do you feel when you say that, though? When you think of if you could have yelled back at them or done something?
Well, they used to threaten me all the time, so that's why my parents didn't know until we moved here. I was 16, 17 before they found out. Then it was too late to know where they were anyways at that point.
Okay.
But I can't remember the name, but I remember always being followed even when I went to school, when I got home. So they almost, it's like they knew where I lived. So they would follow me.
How does it feel to say they followed me?
I would have thought it would bother me, but it doesn't anymore.
And to say that you tried to hide, but it didn't matter.
Tried to hide, but it didn't matter. Doesn't matter now.
Can you check in with anger? If you could call in that name again, whatever you used in your head.
A little bit of that still.
This remaining anger.
This remaining anger.
This remaining anger.
This remaining anger.
What is it like? What would you say? Like you hate them? Would you?
Yeah.
I hate them. Did you hate them?
Mm-hmm.
This remaining anger.
This remaining anger.
I hated them.
Hated them.
This remaining anger.
This remaining anger.
I hated them.
I hated them.
I hated what they did to me.
I hated what they did to me.
This remaining anger.
This remaining anger.
I hated what they did to me.
Hated what they did to me.
This remaining anger.
This remaining anger.
I hated what they did to me.
Hated what they did to me.
This remaining anger.
This remaining anger.
I hated what they did to me.
I hated what they did to me. Hated what they did to me.
So angry at them.
Still angry at them.
This remaining anger at them.
Remaining anger at them.
Maybe I can begin
Maybe I can
to let that anger go.
I can let that go.
Maybe I can begin
Maybe I can begin
to let that anger go.
to let that anger go.
This anger at them.
This anger at
This
them.
remaining anger at them.
This remaining anger at them.
This remaining anger at them.
This remaining anger at them.
So I was really angry at them for what they did.
I was really angry at them for what they did. I feel an emotion, but it's not anger.
What is it?
I think it's probably back to anxiety because it's not something I ever spoke to them. So they would have to hear me say I'm angry or something like that. So my own anxiety would come forward because I would think these things, but I couldn't say them.
I couldn't say it.
I couldn't say it.
I couldn't say anything to them.
I couldn't say anything to them.
I couldn't say anything to them.
I couldn't say anything
There's
to
a
them.
very specific emotion about it, though. Couldn't say anything to them.
Couldn't say anything to them.
So angry at them.
So angry at them.
I couldn't say anything.
I couldn't say anything.
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 Why couldn't you say anything?
Because it make them angry at me.
Even though I didn't want to say anything,
Even though I didn't want to say anything.
because it might make them angry at me.
Make them angry at me.
I can love and accept myself anyway.
I can love and accept myself anyway.
And just be open to that. I don't want to say anything.
I don't want to say anything.
I don't want to say
I
anything.
don't want to say anything.
They might get angry at me.
They might get angry at me.
Don't want to say anything.
Don't want to say anything.
They might get angry at me.
They might get angry at me.
Don't want to say anything.
Don't want to say anything.
They might get angry at me.
They might get angry at me.
Don't want to say anything.
Don't want to say anything.
Do you still do that now?
No. I very much verbalize.
Oh,
my
good.
message.
Good.
Yeah. It took a long time, but no, I don't let my emotions bottle up.
Why would they have gotten angry at you if you would have said anything, or how would that would have?
I think my fear was that by saying something to them to make them realize what they were doing, it would probably make them more angry at themselves and therefore lash out at me more.
So you had a fear that they would lash out at you.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It would make it even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do anything that would make it already worse than it was.
What's the emotion about that, though?
I mean, that stems with the anxiety and the fear and everything else. Even if I said something, there's a possibility that it could have been worse than what it was. So I just kept everything in, and for the even in my adult years, there's a lot of things that I put in. Like, my patience is very high, so I used to tolerate a lot before I would explode. But now I don't let that happen.
Even though I tolerated it.
Even though I tolerated.
Without saying anything.
Without saying anything.
I love and accept and forgive myself.
I love and accept and forgive myself.
Even though I tolerated it.
Even though I tolerated
without
it.
saying anything.
Without saying anything.
Part of me really wanted to.
Part of me really wanted to.
But I didn't want to make it worse.
But I didn't want to make it worse.
So little Sheri.
So little Sheri.
Can love, accept, and forgive herself.
So she can love and protect and
love
forgive herself.
Yeah. Little Sheri.
Little Sheri.
Didn't want to say anything.
Didn't want to say anything.
Didn't want to make it worse.
Didn't want to make it worse.
So she just tolerated it.
So she just tolerated it.
She just had to tolerate it.
She had to tolerate it.
She just had to tolerate it.
She had to tolerate it.
That didn't feel good.
That didn't feel good.
Didn't feel good to tolerate it.
Didn't feel good to tolerate it.
Didn't feel good.
Didn't feel good.
Little Sheri had to tolerate it.
Little Sheri had to tolerate it.
Didn't feel good.
Didn't feel good.
Little Sheri had to tolerate it.
Little Sheri had to tolerate it.
Little Sheri had to tolerate
Little
it.
Sheri had to tolerate it.
3.5 months.
3.5 months.
Little Sheri had to tolerate it.
Little Sheri had to tolerate it.
What those boys were doing.
What those boys were doing.
Little Sheri had to tolerate
Little
it.
Sheri had to tolerate it.
But she can love,
That she can love,
accept,
accept,
and forgive herself
and forgive herself
for not saying anything.
for not saying anything.
She really wanted to,
She really wanted to,
but she didn't want to make it worse.
but she didn't want to make it worse.
It was bad enough as it was.
It was bad enough as it was.
So little Sheri can forgive herself.
So little Sheri can forgive herself.
Give herself permission
Give herself permission
to stand up for herself if she needs
stand
to.
up for herself when she needs to.
Good. There's lots of layers to it.
A little bit.
Go back to the garage door.
Mm-hmm.
Anything come up? If so, what's there?
I'm not sure what the emotion is. I just got really hot.
That's okay. This emotion.
This emotion.
This emotion.
This emotion.
Feeling really hot.
Feeling really hot.
Like more hot than normal.
Mhm.
Like it's, yeah. Feeling really hot.
Feeling really hot.
I'm gonna move that emotion up
Move that emotion out
and out
and out
with my breath.
with my breath.
This hot feeling I have,
This hot feeling that I have.
I'm gonna move it up and out with my breath.
Up and out with my breath.
I can move it up and out with my breath.
I can move up and out with my breath.
Did you ever feel hot at the time when it happened?
I don't think so.
Sometimes it's like an energy that's trying to move or shift. Does it move to a different part of your, is it located in a specific part of your body?
It's always on my throat.
Oh.
Am I ruining it?
Because I didn't say anything. Yeah. Is it still there? The feeling in your throat?
A little bit, yeah.
Is it heat or is it?
Yeah, it's heat that just rises up to my head.
This heat in my throat.
This heat in my throat.
I'm going to move it up and out.
I'm going to move it up and out
Safely with my breath.
safely with my breath.
This feeling in my throat.
This feeling in my throat.
This heat in my throat.
This heat in my throat.
I give my body permission
I give my body permission
to move it up and out with my breath
to move it up and out with my breath
in the safest way.
in the safest way.
Give my body permission
I give my body permission
to move that hot feeling in my throat
to move that hot feeling in my throat
up and out with my breath.
up and out with my breath.
Whatever emotion it is.
Whatever the emotion is.
Whatever that emotion is.
Whatever that emotion is.
And whatever that emotion is connected to.
And whatever that emotion is
I
connected
give my
to.
body permission
I give my body permission
to move it up and out with my breath.
to move it up and out with my breath.
Do you often get feeling in your throat?
It's funny, I've had, when we've done the Reiki and stuff like that, it's always in my throat that's the tightest.
Yeah. Are you mad at yourself for not saying anything? Sometimes that's there, but no, you didn't say anything because it would have made it worse.
I was more afraid of what would happen if I did than I was by not saying it. Although, I mean, you wish that you could.
Yeah.
Right? So,
What's your next thought when you go back to the image in the garage? First time.
no emotion, just tension here.
Tension in your head?
Mm-hmm.
There's tension in my head.
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 There's tension in my
I
head.
give my body permission
I give my body permission
to let it go
to let it go
in whatever way
in whatever way
it sees fit.
it sees fit.
Do you get headaches or anything or migraines?
No.
Sometimes it moves because it went from your throat to your head. We call that chasing the pain. It needs to just either, if we can't access the emotion, then it transfers into the emotion will transfer into like that energy that we feel either in the throat or the head. It transfers into physical discomfort until we either access the emotion and process it or move the energy out.
It's still in this area here.
Even though I have this remaining tension in my head.
Even though I have this remaining tension in my head.
And I get it every time I think about that garage.
And I get it every time I think about that garage.
Poor little Sheri.
Poor little Sheri.
I can love and accept myself anyway.
I can love and accept myself anyway.
Little Sheri can love and accept herself.
Little Sheri can accept herself.
And I give my body permission.
And I give my body permission.
To let that tension go in my head.
Let that tension go in my head.
In whatever way my body sees fit.
In whatever way my body sees fit.
This remaining tension in my head.
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 Every time I think.
Every time I think.
About that day at the garage.
About day at the garage.
This remaining tension in my head.
This remaining tension in my head.
That first day at the garage.
That first day at the garage.
The first time it happened.
The first time it happened.
This remaining tension in my head.
This remaining tension in my head.
Back of the hand. Close. Open. Down hard right. Down hard left. Biggest circle you can find. Other direction. Good. This remaining tension in my head.
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 I give my body permission to let it go.
I give my body permission to let it go.
Maybe it's from all that tapping. Sometimes you'll find that at certain tapping points, you'll feel this desire to take a big, deep, full breath. Do you find that? Sometimes it's just...
I find that I always end up holding my breath a lot.
Yeah.
With a lot of things, actually. Not just the tapping.
Yeah. Some people find that they get really hot. Some people yawn. I personally yawn sometimes when I feel that, either for myself or for my client, if I'm working on an issue. So you hold your breath a lot. Did you hold your breath when it happened?
Probably.
You don't remember?
No.
Even though little Sheri probably held her breath the whole time it happened.
Probably held her breath the whole time it happened.
She can love, accept, and forgive herself.
She can love and accept and forgive herself.
Fully and completely.
Fully and completely.
Poor little Sheri.
Poor little Sheri.
Had to hold her breath.
Had to hold her breath.
Little Sheri.
Little Sheri.
Had to hold her breath.
Had to hold her breath.
When it happened.
When it happened.
She didn't know what else to do.
She didn't know what else to do.
Little Sheri can breathe now.
Sheri can breathe now.
Because it's safe to breathe.
Because it's safe to breathe.
It's safe to relax.
Safe to relax.
It's safe to breathe.
Safe to breathe.
Safe to relax.
Safe to relax.
Even though little Sheri had to hold her breath.
Even though little Sheri had to hold her breath.
When it happened.
When it happened.
She could love, accept, and forgive herself.
She can love and
accept and forgive herself. It's amazing how years later we still hold on to it.
Well, it's odd that you can see so much of it still, even though you're so young.
Yeah, so you were only 6 or 7, and now you're 20 years later. 40. Really? Yeah. And yet you're still operating from it at some level. It's not you. It's not who Sheri is. It's just part of your brain who's still operating from it. There might be a few more aspects. That's what we call aspects, right? There's different emotions connected to it. But in general, when you think about the memory and what...
I'm more calmer now than I was when we first started. Just the thought of discussing it was enough. But yeah, I'm okay.
Is there any different thoughts that you have about them?
I can't say forgiveness yet, but there's something there.
What is it?
I'm not sure what the emotion would be.
For them?
Yeah. Again, pity comes to mind, but it's more than that.
Compassion, or?
Could be.
But it's not...
Oddly enough.
Yeah, it sounds really strange if you've never really thought of it that way. You almost feel bad for them because they have to live with what they've done. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story.
No problem.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.